don't know much about what you do.
No,
So.
and that's why this is so great to be here today. I think there's probably lots of people who don't support local families.
Yeah, so looking forward to hearing more.
Also gives that 15% government funding, the rest is all has to be raised, which is like Kylie's position. So important. Do come and meet.
But we're lucky to get it. Charity can get money, so.
So this is Rupert who's going to be doing the presenting.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you,
And
Sarah.
you too, Rupert.
Come
Hi.
on.
Sit down here.
Hello.
Hiya,
Hello, how are you?
Nikki, I mean, no, that's good. I think it was.
Hello, I'm Sarah.
And this is good.
Hi,
This
Pat.
is Pat.
Picture in the newspapers. But you won't see mine.
No, well, no.
Pat's granddaughter is staying at hospice, so she's coming to talk about.
Right, yeah,
So
brilliant.
Kylie, if you'd like to go
Fabulous.
there.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Fiona was going to be
I was gonna
doing
say,
this,
I
but
thought-
yeah, she's
yeah.
unwell, so I just got a message this morning asking if I could stand in the corridors.
Well, yeah, you might as well.
Difficult.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
COVID last week. First time ever.
Really?
Oh, no.
So you're doing that?
Really?
Still a little bit, sorry, kind of, still a bit of a kind of eye infection type thing going on, and fine in the morning, but then as the day goes on, you kind of start thinking, oh gosh.
Everyone's okay
And
about
it just hits you out of
it.
nowhere
Yeah,
as well.
it really
isn't
does.
I'll take a picture anyway.
Have you?
I always need
Yeah.
to be standing
Social.
above the machines these
Because I
days.
thought I had superpowers or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
because I thought I managed to avoid it.
obviously, in
Yeah.
rooms of people all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, first time, and I've just completely
We'll just take a very quick
completely
photo
wiped out.
of our, usual Facebook page stuff. Thank you very much.
Sarah, do you mind? I'm going to record this as a video as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all right with you?
Yeah, yeah, of course it is, absolutely, yeah.
It's just an interesting. I mean, a more more interesting than usual, but it's a very varied show today. Right, I'm just going to do a few.
It's all positive things for us.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, we take that as a compliment, shall we?
No, completely as a compliment. Okay.
Is that all right if I put that now? Or you
Yeah, that's fine. Again,
just
sort of
Right, Nikki, could you tell me what you had for breakfast this morning?
Porridge with dates.
Ooh.
Louder, but a bit louder, really. Can you
That's
tap your
it,
mic?
also-
Comfortably.
Just tap your mic.
So Nikki, just sit comfortably as you will.
Oh, no, it's fine. My finger trouble here. Say again. Breakfast was one.
Porridge.
Porridge.
Yeah.
We're in that season now again, aren't
Exactly. It's my favourite time of year.
we? Porridge time.
Porridge season.
Sarah, did you have some breakfast this morning, Sarah?
I did. I had a banana and a cafetiere of coffee. I can't exist
whole one.
without it. Yeah, it is a
Can't
it
be
is like a little cafetiere of coffee.
Right. Well,
There was no
Let's not-
judgment for the big one.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Pat, how was your breakfast this morning?
I had Weetabix
Good.
and banana.
Excellent. All right.
So much healthy.
Now, come on. You've got to own up. You didn't have any breakfast. Did you?
No, I did. I was going to have porridge, but my partner sliced me up some sourdough, so I had that with honey and butter.
Oh.
No
Wow.
fruit. I feel like I've let the healthy team down here today.
Wow, honey's
bad.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, just one more from you, Nick.
Me?
Nikki,
Nikki.
just pull it a bit closer to you. I think is probably the best thing. Seems, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. No, that's better. Okay.
All right.
How are we doing? Okay. What's going to happen is this is what's going out at the moment. So at 12 o'clock. We have 2 minutes of sort of trails and adverts and things like that, and then we start at 2 minutes past. Now we're going to come to. I'll do a little introduction. Then we're going to come to Kylie and Pat first, so that you can hear a bit about what's going on in the town. And then after that, we're going to have a little clip of a guy who's doing a fundraising run dressed as an elephant in the Bath half, and he's slightly disabled, but he was at this multicultural festival we had on the weekend, helping out. His sister runs it, so I said I'd do an interview with him because he wants to get some sponsors for his run on Sunday. Okay, and then we'll come to you, Sarah, and we'll have a sort of general interview, and then. Do you know what we're going to ask you?
Roughly, but if it was
Okay.
kind of slightly different from
All
both
right.
of
Well,
these.
I'm not going to spring anything on you. Okay. Well, I tell you what. Let's give. Can you give Sarah? Give Sarah this one.
Helping back there.
Oh yeah.
Have
You can see what's going to happen there.
Was this, and you're sort of going to
One,
talk
two,
because then
one,
we're
two,
going to
three,
come back to
one.
To talk again a bit more about farming.
Okay.
So sort of, yes, general sort of things first, and about farming. Then we're going to do like all about climate and resilience in the town, and I know that you've been interested in that. I've been following your Twitter feed. So then hopefully we'll come back to you with your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
that way.
absolutely, yeah.
Yes, it is a coming back bit. I really appreciate it. Sort of trying to things.
Yeah. Brilliant, thank you.
Put it on the roof. Put it on the roof. 90 seconds long, this. TM, and she got My Generation built into this one. The Terminator, goodbye.
Acorn, I know acorn. My partner's family in Worcester. So acorn covers 3 pounds. What was she in?
Could you just check your headphones, make sure that the level's not too high in them? Is that all right? Not too loud?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
That's okay.
It'd be quite good if you did wear them, you'll get a more immersive experience.
Terminator,
But,
that's
you don't have to.
Martine Jacqueline Taillard from France. Next week. Been on Summer Valley FM and Frome FM. See you next week.
Shepton Anaconda is a family-run business of 50 years in the heart of Somerset. View our fantastic range of new Honda cars and quality-approved used vehicles in our showroom. Why not take a test drive? We cater for all your motoring needs, and our fully equipped parts and service departments will look after your vehicle. Give Shepton Mallet Honda a call on 01749 34 44 22.
Join me, Tim Marriott, here on the late hour. Every 4 weeks on Frome FM, we'll explore the fringes of the musical universe. Come with me on a sonic journey from the most modern to the most ancient of musics. I look forward to travelling with you. Goodbye.
Find a Cat from Cats Protection is a simple online tool that lets you see all the cats we have to rehome in your area in seconds. So search Find a Cat and find a soulmate, a lap warmer, a playmate, a warm welcome, and a new best friend. Search Find a Cat online now and find out what your home's been missing.
So as soon as I fade the mics out, this will go away, so you might want to put your headphones on.
You could be using this airtime to promote your business on 96.6 FM and online around the world. Visit frome.fm/sponsors or email advertising at frome.fm.
96.6 Frome
Hello and welcome to All About Frome, the show that, amongst other things, gives a voice to Frome's volunteer army, the hundreds of people who give up their time and skills to help others in the town. I'm Rupert Kirkham, and our guest today, Sarah Dyke, our recently elected Liberal Democrat MP, is here with us. Hello, Sarah.
Good morning.
We've also got Nikki Brain from Frome Town Council.
Hello.
We've got Kylie Gallagher, area fundraiser for the Children's Hospice South West, and Pat Hobbs, who's from Wraxall. Now, I'm going to talk to you first. I don't know, Are you not from Wraxall? I don't know where we got the Wraxall from.
No, I'm from Frome.
You're from Frome, okay.
Frome born and bred.
Charlton Farm.
Oh, the Children's Hospice is in Wraxall. All right, okay. That's slightly wrong. Okay, fine. Anyway, so first of all, Kylie, who is this hospice for?
So the hospice is for children across the whole of the southwest, where we have 3 hospices in Devon, Cornwall, and the local Frome one an hour away in Wraxall near Bristol. It's for children who have either a life-limiting or a life-threatening condition and their family to have the support that they need.
And Pat, you're from Frome. Well, what's your connection here? Tell us about that.
My connection with the hospice is that one of my grandchildren was born with a condition that we found out after a few days was called 1p36 chromosome deletion. So it involved all sorts of medical issues, and in the beginning we were told that she may not sit up, all sorts of things. In the event, she's gone on to prove us wrong about a lot of things, but she spent obviously a fair time in hospital, and then when she came home, it became increasingly difficult to look after her and her 2-year-old sister at the time. So the hospice was a really welcome break, and some respite, not just respite care, but the whole family could go there and be looked after without having to worry about the medical needs of Elodie.
But just get this clear, it's a hospice, and so is she not expected to live?
That's right, she was one of those children diagnosed with the life limited.
Right, okay. And that's really what the hospice is for anyway, so it's life limited patients.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. What experience do you give to people who are in the hospice?
So I think there's often a misconception when people hear the word hospice about what a children's hospice is.
Yeah.
And although end of life care is part of the offering that we can give to families, actually the big part is resilience stays for families who desperately need a lifeline and a break and that support in a hospice environment at Charlton Farm or one of our other 2 sites. But actually now, since our care model's adapted since COVID, our offering is that we are able to offer hospice home and virtual. So whereas historically families could come to us for respite within the hospice, now it's resilience stays in the hospice, but also going out into the community as well. So for example, at Charlton Farm, the local Frome hospice, we have 8 bedrooms, and they might not be all filled at any one time by all of our families, but we are supporting 8 families at one time. It just looks a bit differently to how it did before COVID. So we might have 3 or 4 families who are staying in the hospice, getting support, having a break, using our jacuzzi, going in soft play, the siblings being looked after by a dedicated sibling team, which is really important, as you would say, Pat. But then it might be out in the community, so it might be giving them day rest in the home or going to the hospital to support the family as well. So that's a real positive that this holistic approach now is hospice, home and virtual, and we can support them in all of those different ways.
Now, how much medical support is there at the hospice?
So they can completely hand it over, hopefully, to the care team there. So the child will have a key contact worker, and so mum and dad can sit down and have lunch and dinner and eat it whilst it's still hot, because they know that their child is being fed. Often our children will have special dietary requirements, so they may be being fed through a tube, and that can take quite a long time. So for mum and dad at home, it's almost a luxury for them to be able to sit down and eat food together as a whole family whilst it's still hot. So when they come to Charlton Farm or one of our other hospices, they can sit down as a whole family, meet other families in similar circumstances who know what they're going through, and just sit there and be mum and dad, which it doesn't seem like a big deal, but actually that's so important that they get that time to sit down as a whole family and know that their child is having excellent care. and that at their time that they don't need to be being woken. Lots of our children have seizures and fits and need 24/7 care. So mum and dad can come and have a lie-in. Another actually have a sleep, and they know that their child is being cared for as well.
So, and what's the accommodation for parents or carers who want to stay?
So they can, it's often the whole family who come for stays.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's
I had a room of my own.
Exactly, and it's not just, mum and dad and brothers and sisters and the child being cared for, it's also sometimes grandparents coming for a stay. And I don't know if this ever happened for you, Pat, but sometimes grandparents have been known to stay without the mum and dad.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
And I think that's, because perhaps for grandparents they wouldn't be able to provide that setting for wheelchairs and special bath that we have
and
at
all
Charlton
the
Farm.
medical.
And all the medical.
No, of course, yeah. So this must cost a lot of money, and you're the fundraiser. How do you raise it?
All sorts of ways. So at the moment it costs us £16 million to run all 3 of our hospices. As I've mentioned, we've got a Devon.
Sorry, 16 or 60? Okay, right.
16.
Yeah.
So it's 16 million every year to run all 3 of our hospices. And obviously I mentioned we have another hospice in Devon in Cornwall, so it's about an hour and a half for each family to reach their local children's hospice. That was the vision.
Okay, that's the idea.
That our founders had when they set the Children's Hospice South West up. So it's an awful lot of money, and it's lots of work in all sorts of ways. We rely almost entirely on voluntary income, but we're very lucky that people want to support us in lots of different ways. It could be pennies in a collection tin on a till, it could be a bucket collection, it could be someone running the Bath Half Marathon and choosing to support
So do you
us.
not have any government support?
We do. We're very lucky we get around 10%. I think the thing with government funding for charities is that it's not always guaranteed. So just because we get it now doesn't mean that we'll always get it. And it can fluctuate, so it can decrease as well as increase.
But your costs are basically fixed, aren't they? I mean, if you're full to capacity.
Yeah.
Which
So
presumably you mostly are.
yes, so we are busy. We look after about 560 families across the South West at all 3 of our hospices at the moment. And that care doesn't end when a child is no longer using our services. The family have our bereavement support for as long as they need it to. So it doesn't just end when they stop using our services and coming for stays. It goes on for as long as they need it to, which is also really important for the siblings, because that's a really important part of what we offer families, is dedicated sibling support for all the brothers and sisters.
I can vouch for that, because when I was there, Amelie came as well. That's the older sister, and I think it was nice for her to meet other siblings who've got the same concerns. That their brother or sister is being attended to maybe more than they are. I don't know if that's how they felt. But they certainly were able to have a good time themselves.
So let's just divert slightly. A good time is obviously important, and a lot of these children will be feeling quite ill. What do you do to make them feel better? Do you have lots of play facilities and swimming pools?
Well, Elodie likes things that make a lot of noise and flash.
Okay.
So anything that's noisy and bright. So they've got a sensory room that's got light tubes and beds that you can water beds that you can lie on. She loved the music therapy. They used to have a therapist that came in, and he would allow her to play some of the instruments, and she got some really good response and pleasure from that. And then, like you said, there's a pool, a heated pool that I got in with her. It's too hot for me, but she enjoyed it. So it's just making every minute that she's there as pleasurable as it can be.
And do you have 24/7 one-on-one support for anyone who's there, or is it teams of people per
it's every single day of the year. So obviously everything changed in COVID, where families couldn't come for their holidays and respite in the same way, but we were there supporting them the whole time, and obviously in emergency care and end-of-life care, and we're always on the end of the phone, so the hospice is never shut. There's always somebody there for the family.
Is there any payment made by the parents?
No, it's completely free, which is why often we will see families trying to give something back to say thank you. So I'm so grateful that Pat has very kindly come with me here today, because there's nothing like quite hearing from a family who has an experience of the hospice rather than just the fundraiser, and that's her way of giving back. I think
Yeah, I
probably
think you're right. Most of the families that go there and use the facility want to pay back, literally, somehow or other.
Can I ask you, it's probably a difficult question, but how do you feel about the fact that your granddaughter's not going to live very long? And therefore, how do you feel about what the hospice is doing?
Well, it's obvious that the time she gets in the hospice is time that she couldn't have in any other way, you know, and not just for her, but for the family as well, to make some memories together. I showed Kylie a picture of a holiday that we managed to go together for my birthday last year, and Elodie had never been on a holiday with us as a family before because of her special needs.
Of course.
So yeah, it really is important that she gets what she can, and that also we make memories as a family. And I try not to think about any kind of end of life. Just live for and enjoy. She gives me a big hug when I see her, and that's good enough.
How old is she?
She's now 12.
Right. And how long has she been in the hospice?
Well, off and on.
Oh, okay.
Whenever her parents feel they need some respite care, they went on holiday, I think, for a few days back in the summer, and Elodie spent those couple of days in the hospice.
But presumably she knows everybody at the hospice, so there's no sort of resentment that she's been abandoned for 2 days. Or
No, it's peculiar, because I think because she sees so many different people, she's got carers that come into the home to help, and also the people in the hospice are just so well tuned to what the children need that she doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how many families are you actually caring for?
So 560 across the
560.
southwest.
Good Lord. And that, so how many people work for the organisation?
Oh gosh, lots. There's probably approximately, off the top of my head, around 60 at Charlton Farm, and that would comprise of our fundraising team and admin team, the care team, so HR, our maintenance staff, the kitchen team, housekeeping, but all of these different areas also have volunteers, because we couldn't do it without people who are so kind to volunteer their time as well. So although we will have paid maintenance, because we have to have that in all the different areas, we'll also have a team of volunteers who help with ironing and baking cakes, which is a really important part of at the heart of the home for the Children's Hospice South West across the whole of the areas.
Cake's very important in Frome, I think. I don't know why, but every event that anyone puts on is sort of headlined and cake. All right. So now, have you got any fundraising events coming up that we should know about, or is there a way that we can contribute?
Look on the website, there are so many things. I looked before I came, and I'm not going to do fire walking, but there is one. A Southwest Coast Path Challenge next May, so everybody's got time to get fit for it.
Sorry, just go back to fire walking. Who's
There's
doing
plenty
that?
of other things as well.
There is a fire walking event, is there?
I don't know.
I see.
We do firewalks.
I know my daughter
You did, okay. So, and then there's the Southwest Coast path.
So
that
it's
sounds fantastic.
over 3 days in May.
Yeah.
You walk 60 miles. I think they want a minimum sponsorship of 350, or is it 1,000? I think you've got to get 1,000. They expect 1,000.
Right, so you get people to be fully sponsored before they do anything, so that you know what's coming. Is that right?
And then you collect it once you've done the walk. And
Yeah.
what's more?
So other things?
Oh yeah,
Pat,
loads.
you're going to have me out of a job. I love it.
Sorry.
She's come so prepared. No, it's brilliant. I was just going to mention Santa's on the Run. I'm not sure if Laura and the family have done that before, but we've got a Santa Fun Run, which is about a mile, and we're having it at Charlton Farm, which will be really special to all of our families in
It's
particular.
lovely there at Christmas.
Really beautiful. There's at least 7 Christmas trees that go up, so it's a really special time of year for us. And so that's on Sunday the 3rd of December at the hospice, and we're just inviting anyone who might like to take part. to join us. It's not just families, people, I've seen them limbering up in previous years.
So
quite
we're dressing
serious.
up as Santas.
We're dressing up as Santas or elves or whatever you want to dress
Okay.
up as. Fancy dresses very strongly
Reindeer.
encouraged. Reindeer, exactly. And we ask that people, raise sponsorship or make a donation to help us, raise money. And
Right.
it's a really fun Christmas
Yeah.
event coming up.
Right. All right. Any other ones that you've done in the past that particularly stand out for you? Shouldn't have asked you that.
Probably not. We've had so many different things,
Right.
and the Christmas one is always a really popular one. We've done colour runs and
Rainbow Run.
Rainbow Run, and
Well, how does that work?
so that was a colour run
Yeah.
where each kilometre you got covered in a different colour
Powder
powder
paint.
paint.
Oh, right.
And that's something that we're not doing at our Charlton Farm Hospice anymore, but it's happening at one of the
Right.
other sites. So it
Exeter.
could be that's something someone would do at one of our other sites. But I think really it's just great to be in Frome because I think it's a real opportunity to raise awareness about what we do. I think there's probably lots of people who don't know who we are and what we do, and actually there might be people out there who might like to volunteer their time in some way, or they might like to hold an event or take part in a fun event or
Yeah.
a serious challenge or something like that, and help us raise awareness because
So they don't all take place at Charlton Farm. then?
No.
Where is Charlton Farm? Just give us a.
so it's in Wraxall, which is in North Somerset. So
Right,
it's
okay.
about an hour, just over an hour from Frome to get to Charlton Farm. And for the families out there, parents, grandparents who know Noah's Ark Farm in Wraxall, we can hear Noah's Ark Farm from Charlton Farm. And for the National Trust lovers, Tinsfield we were part of the same Tinsfield estate once upon a time where Charlton Farm is. So most people know where at least Tinsfield National Trust or Noah's Ark Farm
We took
is.
Elodie to the Noah's Ark, but it didn't flash lights or.
So it was
That wasn't-
disappointing.
Disappointing.
All right. Listen, we've got to stop this interview now, but I mean, thank you so much for coming in. And just run past the how do we get in touch bit.
So as Pat mentioned, all of our information is on our website, so you can find most things on there. But Charlton Farm is a local hospice for Frome, so if you just look up the details and get in touch with me, that would be lovely. I'm the area fundraiser for Frome, and my name's Kylie Gallagher, and all of my details are on our website.
Okay, and all of the details, in fact, from this programme, people who are on it and the organisations they represent will be on our website after the programme. So thanks again for coming in. Now,
Thank you.
if you were lucky enough to get to the Multicultural Festival in Cheese and Grain on Sunday, you might have met Radek. He was running around helping people out with tables and chairs and generally sort of providing support for the event. He collared me after the event with some news of an appeal of his own.
I'm here because I was helping with the check table at the multicultural event. I've been doing this for the last 3 years. I love helping out at community events.
What's your connection with the?
I am half Czech, and my sister is one of the organisers. So I always like to work with my sister.
Cool. Okay. Now you're going to do something very special soon for another organisation.
Yes, I am a volunteer for a charity called Purple Elephant, who run the Tune Festival, and I'm their mascot, and I'm going to be running this Sunday, coming on the 15th of October. I'm running the Bath half.
Right.
For Purple
Have you ever
Elephant.
done that before?
No, this is my first time running in any
training?
marathon. I've never run in my life, but I am quite fit because I walk quite a lot.
Okay, cool. Right. Have you been doing any training?
I've done a bit of training. I ran from Westbury to Frome via Rudge and Bellerton.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then I did a bit more to Nunney to make 30 miles in one go, and I did it in 2 hours 15 minutes.
Right.
So I'm quite confident that I'll do well.
So how much are you trying to raise, do you think?
But I am going to be, just to say to the readers, I am in an elephant costume.
Okay. Does that make it a bit more tricky?
Yes, very tricky because I'll be getting hot in about 20 minutes. In my training, I went out for 20 minutes and I was hot straight away.
Right.
And I'll be in the suit for, let's say, average 3 hours.
Do you have any water inside the suit that you can drink?
No, but I've got at least a week to work on how to keep myself not dying.
Okay. Right, Liz, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, and I'm hoping to try to raise £1,000. At the moment, with rough figures, I've raised about £600.
Oh, right. And how do you, if I wanted to sponsor you, how do I do that?
If you go onto the Purple Elephant Facebook page, there'll be a link to my local giving page.
Cool. Yes, I was Radak on his Purple Elephant fundraiser next Sunday. So, welcome to the Liberal Democrat MP for Somerset and Frome constituency, Sarah Dyke. How could I have got that wrong? It's in front of me.
You nearly got it right. It's Somerton and Frome.
Somerton
And yeah, Sarah Dyke indeed.
Okay, shall we start that again and I'll cut that bit out?
Yeah.
Welcome to Sarah Dyke, Liberal Democrat MP. You won the by-election by a landslide. How early on the campaign did you think you were in with a chance?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I was out on the doors. I was lucky enough to be selected as the parliamentary candidate for the Lib Dems over a year ago. Now, as we know, my predecessor got himself into a bit of a pickle. And I was able to be selected, and I've been out on doors, knocking on doors, talking to people in the constituency for well over a year, and during that time a lot of people saw me as the de facto MP. I was the only one who was getting out there and talking to people and being visible and really doing the casework of the MP that really wasn't being done. So for me, winning was obviously hugely important, but I really didn't think about what the result was going to be until it was in, because for me, going out and talking to as many people, meeting as many people, that was the most important thing for me. And I always remember I won my first election onto the district council at South Somerset District Council back in 2015 by a majority of 1 vote. So from getting from 2015 winning by 1 vote to winning with a majority of over 11,000 was quite incredible, and it's really humbling that people in Somerton and Frome have given me this level of support, and a real privilege to be able to represent people in the county, and I will endeavour to do my very best to make sure that the trust that they've put in me is I'm able to do my job to the very best of my ability.
All right. How does being an MP compare with being a councillor?
Well, it feels like
county councillor even.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities. For me, it's giving people a voice, representing people. That is the job of a councillor and also of an MP. So obviously, I've got a track record of doing that in my councillor role, both at the district and at the unitary council. And it feels just like a step up. Obviously, a lot of the casework that I'm dealing with is much more complex, but essentially, it's about representing people, and that's what I love to do.
Okay, but you do spend quite a lot of time, presumably, in London now. How do you find the House of Commons?
Yeah, that's interesting actually, because as soon as I was elected, Parliament went to recess for 5 weeks, so it was essentially the summer holidays. So I've spent a grand total of 2 weeks in Parliament, and now we won't go into conference recess so that all the different political parties can have their conferences. So I've been in Parliament for a grand total of 5 days, which has allowed me to be sworn in on my first day, and I was able to ask my first question in Parliament on my first day as well. It was around the RAC issue, around the
the reinforced concrete, and asking the Secretary of State whether she was going to be taking the issue seriously. So that was a huge privilege to be able to
Do you
to
have
do
an
that.
experience of that, or was that from one of your constituents?
Yeah, we had several schools in the constituency that are under investigation, and obviously that investigation should have been carried out earlier in the summer. It wasn't. It was delayed, and now as children were going back to school at the time, suddenly there was schools that were having to be closed because of the investigation.
And
so
just
the
running
work
it
should have
past us,
been
it's
done.
actually about substandard concrete that was put into building the...
Well, it was aerated concrete that was used very much in the kind of in the 60s and 70s. It was cheaper. It was probably never expected to be used in buildings for such a long period of time.
Right.
So now, obviously, we're finding that there's issues not only in schools, but I suspect there's going to be issues in other public buildings as well. So I think we're
That's going to be a massive one, isn't it?
yeah, it is. I don't think we've seen the last
So
of it
you must
yet.
have a lot of colleagues, MP colleagues, who've got the same issue.
Yeah, that's right, but it's not so much an issue for colleagues of MPs. It's the issue is for school children and their safety, and making sure that we've got good, safe environments for our children to learn.
Right. Okay, well let's just bring it back to the West Country here. What are you promoting in Parliament for the West Country? What's your sort of agenda here? Because you've got obviously a number. You must have a number of different causes that you're championing for Somerset. Tell us a little bit about that.
During my campaign, I spoke very clearly around the lack of GPs and the lack of dentists that we've got in the constituency. And again, that's a national problem. It's not specific to Somerton and Frome, but there's some horrific stories. I've had one family had to travel up from Melbourne Port down in South Somerset right up to Woking to get a dentist appointment for herself and her 2 children. So it was an hour and a half on the train just to get an NHS dentist. And we've got NHS dentists closing right across the constituency. And in fact, I'm doing some research now with my team, and it looks like there are very few, if any, dentists taking NHS patients across the constituency, and that is absolutely disgusting. That people have not got access to an NHS dentist, and that has to change. And I'll be lobbying very strongly to ensure that we get those NHS GPs and dentists, and we're calling for more dentists and GPs to be trained to ensure that we have that service that is free at that issue.
Okay, so I mean, what's the problem here? Is it because dentists are very greedy and they only want to do private patients, or is it because there aren't enough dentists?
It's a mixture of both. Certainly the NHS dentists that have been in practice are finding it extremely difficult to make ends meet. So at the end of the day, they're running a business, and they have to be able to do that to the best of their ability. The investment isn't there. The training isn't there, so it's coming from both sides. And unfortunately, our dentists are deciding that actually to be able to make money for their businesses, they have to go private.
Right. We'll come back to other issues in a minute, but you're from a farming background, as am I, funny enough. And so Somerset is a county with many farming communities, and they're obviously looking to you for support in Parliament. What do you think the issues are for farmers here?
Well, farmers are struggling. They have been for many years. You rightly said, from a farming background myself. My brother decided 3 years ago to come out of dairy farming. We've been dairy farmers for kind of 6 generations now, so it was a really, really big move to make. And a decision, but he's also called Rupert, but he was really struggling. He couldn't find a dairyman. We had a Polish dairyman for many years, absolutely fantastic. With Brexit, he decided that he couldn't stay in the UK and went back to Poland. We couldn't find anybody to replace him, and so my brother was ending up doing the milking first thing in the morning, then doing all the other roles on top of that, and then having to go and milk the cows in the evening. And he was, relentless. His mental health was suffering and also his physical health was suffering. So he took a really difficult decision to come out of dairy farming 3 years ago. But also, so we've got those, alongside that we had the Brexit issue, but we've also got the botched trade deals with Australia and New Zealand, obviously, which is putting more financial pressure on our farmers. And also then the change from the basic payments to the environmental land stewardship scheme, which has been delayed, and now there's a huge issue with payments that aren't being paid out to farmers.
And that used to be the set aside, did it, within the EU?
Essentially, yes. So it's a basic payment. So it's the subsidies that farmers were paid to be able to produce food for our tables, because we all want to eat.
Why is the deal with the Australians so bad then?
Well, because obviously it's bringing in cheaper produce, particularly lamb and other meat sources that are on a lower environmental and welfare standards, bringing it into the UK and undercutting our hard-working British farmers.
So the farming community feels pretty fed up with the Brexit thing.
They've been let down by this Conservative government, left, right and centre. And, many of our farmers are on the brink now. Our family farm is, luckily we've been able to, my brother's now gone into beef and dairy and has been able to rent out some of the dairy unit, but not every farmer has that opportunity to do that, and many have gone out of business, particularly tenant farmers who have to make the farm work or they lose it. And I think that's the real issue. If we want our farmers, who are the guardians of our countryside, to keep producing food for our table, we need to be able to invest in them. We need to be able to secure their livelihoods, because being a farmer is not just it's a career, but it's a livelihood. You work on a farm day in, day out. You look after your animals, you produce food for the table, and you also protect the countryside. So our local farmers, our family farms, are absolutely essential to the rural economy, and I will fight to the bitter end to ensure that the farmers in Somerton and Frome have a strong voice in Parliament.
Okay. Now, of course, there are sometimes seen to be conflicts between farming and the environmental care that we are now having to take. Well, we've always had to take more environmental care, and a lot of farmers do that anyway because that's how they maintain their farms. But Nikki Brain's here, and Nikki's the resilience officer for the council here. I just wanted to bring you in here because we need to talk about what Frome's doing in terms of the environment, but also I think, well, I'm sure Sarah's, you have talked to Sarah before about how the county council and Parliament can help at this level. Have you got any sort of views on that?
Yeah, definitely. Quite a few. So we're really lucky in Frome because we do have a huge amount of community groups, of individual kind of grassroots projects, all working on climate change and the environment. We've also got a team within the town council that's dedicated, and we've got resources that we can actually put towards projects, which is fantastic. But to be honest, we're nowhere near on track to meet our target of becoming carbon neutral by 2030, and a lot of that is because of poor decision making in central government, so like not having the access to funding needed to deliver the changes that are necessary, for example in public transport, helping people to retrofit their homes. Some of the decisions that have been taken recently, like removing the requirement for landlords to upgrade their properties to make bills cheaper for tenants. That was something that was announced a couple of weeks ago, which is obviously targeting, and it's making life harder for people who are like the most vulnerable, but it's also obviously catastrophic for our attempts to address climate change. So these are all things that can be, fought for and lobbied for in Parliament, and I know Sarah's going to do that.
Isn't that a huge responsibility, Sarah, to have to take this on board? I mean, obviously MPs have to take this on board from their constituencies, but Frome Town Council, it's a fantastic organisation, but it doesn't have much power when it comes to changing policy or anything. So how does it work in Parliament when you're mandated to look at the environmental issues that are happening in Somerset, particularly from places like Frome. How do you channel that into Parliament? What's the procedure for getting a debate going on something like this?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, from my background, I've recently been the lead member at Somerset Council for Environment and Climate Change. So this is an issue that I've worked on and been very vocal on in the past. So I've obviously met with Frome Town Council, been engaged in a lot of the kind of projects that they've been involved with, and Frome Town Council really drives from the front, and I think is a beacon of success when it comes to environment and really working across our communities. And of course I've been mandated by my constituents, but also the local parish councils and town councils to take their voices forward into the chamber and basically into Westminster. So I've got a number of different avenues to be able to do that. Obviously I can ask questions in the chamber, but I can also put forward early day motions and debates, and obviously so I'm just finding my feet, but obviously all of these kind of things I'm able to take forward to ensure that we lead. And obviously Liberal Democrats have now got 15 MPs in Parliament, but we do punch above our weight to make sure that our voices are heard and our communities are heard. And as Nikki said, we are going to really struggle to reach our carbon neutrality targets, and this government is doing everything it possibly can to avoid reaching those really important targets that were set for a reason. We are in a climate emergency, and we've got to make sure that we work really hard every single day to make sure that we all focus on, as a society, to do our bit to make sure that we reach carbon neutrality and net zero as quickly as we can for generations to come, because if we don't do it now, it's going to be too late.
So in a way, you're also a conduit the other way, from Parliament back to the local organisations that are largely voluntary, to carry out some of the things you're pushing for in Parliament.
Yeah, that's right. And and I think for me, I want to be an MP that is proactive, but also reaches out and works with the community, and really is that voice to make sure people's voices are heard. And being somebody that is born and bred in the area, I understand the dynamics of the community. So I think that makes it easier for me to actually genuinely be that strong voice and connect with people on the ground in the communities, but also to be able to get up there and champion people's voices in Parliament.
Okay. Nikki, we'll come back to you, Sarah, later, but just how does Frome become a sustainable town? This is the Green and Healthy Future project, and all this is and the sort of circular economy ideas that are going round. How are these things working out, and what do you need from Sarah?
So Green and Healthy Frome, I think, is a really good example of different organisations coming together to try to tackle this problem. It's not something that we can do by ourselves as a town council. It's not something that individuals can do by themselves. So it's a 3-year partnership funded through the National Lottery. We've got £1.7 million of funding between Frome Town Council, Adventure and Frome Medical Practice. And the Frome Medical Practice's involvement is really key to this, because the whole project is around how, by addressing our health needs, we can also help the climate. So it's really focusing on climate health win-wins.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah. So part of the scheme is an e-bike loan and trial scheme. You can have a free e-bike for 1 month, and you can take part in cycle confidence classes, social rides, maintenance classes throughout that period. We've had about 100 people go through that scheme so far, and obviously the climate benefit of that is we've seen that afterwards people have gone on to cycle more, sometimes replacing their short car journeys with journeys by bike. And the health benefit is they're getting out and getting more active.
So how do you make that happen then?
So we've just partnered with the Frome Community Bike Project. This used to be run by Frome Town Council, but now that we've got the bike project there, they'll be running that in future. You can sign up on the website. There's always a waiting list, but you might wait a few months and then you'll get a space. You go down to the bike project, pick up your bike, get a safety briefing, get your helmet, and then you can sign up to any of the courses that you want to take part in during that month.
I think that's an example of how the council sort of kick-starts projects and then passes them into the community, which seems the best way round from all sorts of levels. Really.
That's the way we want to do things. We don't want to be running services long term, but we like to sort of incubate stuff and then work with partners to try and kind of put it on a sustainable footing.
Now you've just appointed a retrofitting officer.
We have,
Yes,
yes, and
that's
she's very
interesting.
busy. She's been inundated since
Tell
she
us what
started.
tell us what that's about.
So retrofit is the process of making your home more energy efficient. So obviously you can do basic things like draft proofing, but this is more looking at the fabric of the building and looking at insulation measures and then ventilation, looking at addressing damp and mould. And what Sally does is she'll go and do a whole house assessment and then she can give you a plan, a breakdown of what you need to do to make your home more energy efficient, to lower your bills, obviously lower your carbon footprint. And that can be a plan that can stay with your house for as long as you live in it. So you don't have to do everything at once, but it helps you to understand what
And
order
it's a
things
free
need to be done in.
service, is it?
Yes, so normally you pay for this. It probably costs between £500 and £800 to get a survey on the market. Sally's able to offer them for free. So unsurprisingly, since we let people know that she's here, she's had a massive sign up. So she's got about 5 months worth of surveys to get through before we can take on anyone else.
Is that sustainable? I mean, maybe that's too much.
So we're partnering with the Centre for Sustainable Energy, who also have retrofit assessors. So we're kind of looking at how we might be able to bring in extra support. Obviously, we knew there'd be demand, and yeah, one person might not be able to meet the whole demand for Frome. So we're looking at managing that.
What are the priority properties, or what kind of properties need the most retrofit activity?
So your house will have what's called an EPC rating, an Energy Performance Certificate. If it's below a C, you probably need some quite in-depth retrofit support, and you'll be paying more for your bills.
Is that typical of houses in Frome? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. We've got obviously lots of old housing stock. So Sally's mostly looking at properties that were built 20 or more years ago. She wouldn't do something that was built more recently because they tend to have kind of insulation as standard. But we can also support with things like looking at solar panels and heat pumps through our kind of energy advice service.
Yeah. But not financially for that one, because I mean, they are quite expensive, aren't they?
Well, what we can do is just make sure that people understand what support they're eligible for. So there's a new grant, which is sort of a silver lining in all of the doom and gloom at the moment from government. There's a new government grant, which usually it's only low-income households that are eligible for grant funding for good reason, trying to support low-income households first. But currently there's grant funding available for anyone in a property which is under EPCD, D or under, in a council tax bands A to D. And that's only just been launched, so a lot of people won't be aware actually that they can apply for that support. So that's something that we're trying to do through this is, make people aware that actually they can get grant funding towards these things.
We'll stand by for a deluge after this.
Yeah. So there's lots of information on our website, so if you want to go on to Frome Town Council and search healthy homes or retrofit, there's lots of advice on there already about.
Okay. Safer streets is the last thing we're going to talk about here. What safer streets in Frome? What's led to this?
So we've been working for since I started at the Town Council for the last 2.5 years on trying to get Somerset's first school street scheme implemented in Frome. A traditional school street is a short-timed road closure outside school gates to improve safety. But we're going beyond that. So we're looking at 4 schools. We've got Critchhill, Trinity, Oakfield and Avanti School involved in the scheme. And as well as trialling time closures, which will start from next year, from spring next year.
Sorry, timing what?
So it's timed vehicle restrictions outside the schools.
Oh, timed vehicle restrictions, okay.
In a very small area, just to kind of stop that kind of build up of traffic at the school gate, which obviously we've seen some accidents and a lot of near misses as a result of the pile up of traffic outside the school gates. But we've recognised as well, we've kind of gone through quite extensive consultation with the community on this project, and that recognised that actually just restricting traffic isn't going to be enough to encourage people to walk and cycle if they can to school. We also need to just make the roads safer. It's a bit of a chicken and egg, because if you reduce the amount of traffic, the roads are safer, but for people to feel the ability to do that in the first place, we need things like better crossing points,
and of course
better junctions.
That's not in your bailiwick, is it?
But
I mean, it could be.
We are delivering those things.
But it is in the council, the Somerset council's area, isn't it?
So we're delivering a whole programme of infrastructure improvements through a Section 2708 agreement, which basically is a contract with Somerset Council that allows us to manage the work in the highway. It's what Frome Town Council did for Marketplace, so we've done it before. That work's going to start before Christmas, so we will have upgraded crossing points, junctions, and what's called a quiet way, which is a kind of safer cycling route along Somerset and Oakfield roads. So that infrastructure work happening before Christmas, and then the trial of the school street scheme will start in spring.
Well, it's lovely to hear that there's actually some progress going on there.
It's taken a long time.
Things do, I guess. Let's come back to Sarah Dyke, who's our newly elected MP. Sarah, what are the other issues that, apart from the environment and local issues like the ones that Nikki's just been talking about, what are your sort of major issues that you're carrying into Parliament with you?
Well,
for Somerset.
Yeah, as I said, it's the key issues around the NHS and the cost of living crisis. People are really struggling with mortgages at the moment as well. I've spoken to so many people who have renegotiated their mortgage bills. So we're calling for a mortgage support scheme to help people through the worst of the times, up to £300 a year, to be able to help support them when their mortgage costs have gone up to a year, and then it will be reassessed. So, really trying to help people keep a roof over their heads, because there are some people who are literally on the brink of having to leave their homes, and that's a real crisis. When we're not building enough homes, affordable homes as it is at the moment, and that links into obviously to Frome Town Council recently declaring a housing crisis. So that's something that is really important, and we've Liberal Democrats have recently put a policy forward to make sure that we're calling for 150,000 houses a year in the next parliamentary term to be built, affordable homes, so that people who are local and can afford to live locally where they've grown up. So that's something that is a really kind of long-term issue that I'm going to be fighting.
Is that a I mean, it's a crucial issue here, because it's like the farming community in a way. Once people lose a job, they have to move away, and in a sense with the housing thing, if they can't find a house, they'll have to go somewhere else to live, which means they'll probably work somewhere else.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's going to have an impact on the community if we can't find housing for local people.
That's right.
But are there other ways of doing this? I mean, could you, for example, have a tax on people who've bought second homes in Frome?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the things that we would, as Liberal Democrats, be looking at is looking very closely on second homes and also holiday homes as well. And Frome obviously has become very popular. It's a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful place to visit. So we've got lots of attractions around the area. So of course people want to come into Frome. But obviously what we must do is make sure that we've got a housing target to be able to ensure that people who want to live, who've grown up locally, are able to stay local and feed into the local economy and be locally economically active locally, and also making sure that our homes are fit for future as far as environmental standards as well. So people are living in warm houses, that they're cheap to heat, and they've got low carbon emissions alongside them as well.
So as long as everybody's working together on this, there's going to be some progress. Do you think we're going to make the target of 2030 for being carbon neutral?
I think we've got a long way to go, and I think if the government isn't helping, if it's not really on their agenda, and I think the recent announcements that we've seen from government over the last couple of weeks, they are clearly sidestepping their commitments to carbon neutrality.
They seem to see that as an election issue, is to say we are not going to do this now, so we're going to save loads of money. But I mean, that seems to be it's a bit political, this, but yeah.
It is, and I personally, I don't think long term it's going to win any votes at all. I think the majority of people in the UK can see that we're in a climate emergency, and most people want to do their very best to ensure that they take responsibility to ensure that we've got a healthy planet to leave for generations to come.
Yeah, and it just does depend on, but it does depend on the individual's ability to put some of their personal things to one side. you know, for the sake of others.
Well, I think it's actually easier than that. Everybody can do a little bit, even a little bit helps. I've recently introduced the blue bag recycling bags into Somerset when I was a lead member for climate change, and my chair is my role is chair of Somerset Waste Partnership, and that means more people are able now to recycle more from the curbside. So even doing that is making a difference. And let's face it, more and more people recycle, and most people recycle from the curbside. And so to be able to enable people to do more of that, and when I was in my role at Somerset Council, I also introduced a trial into Frome to a pool of about, I think it's about 3,000 homes around soft plastic recycling as well.
I'm on that one, yeah.
So that's something that we're doing to make sure that hopefully that will get rolled out across the county. And by default, people then just be doing that a little bit more every single day to help with our environmental impacts and lowering that burden.
I've certainly noticed in my own personal house that by recycling things like these soft plastics and so on, the bin is 50% full when they come to pick it up, whereas it used to be, I used to throw an extra one out, because I couldn't fit it all in. So I think it does make a difference, really. It just depends what happens to it when it goes.
That's right, exactly. I mean, I think the perception was when we introduced the 3 weekly black bin collections that people were worried that their bins were going to be overflowing during that period. But obviously they didn't take into account the additional recycling they could do. And people have been coming up to me since the 3 weekly black bin collections have been in place going, Sarah, I can't believe it, but I actually don't need my bin to be collected on a 3 weekly cycle. I could actually push for a lot more. And I think people, once you always get that perception that doing something is going to be tricky, but actually when you actually take part in it, you see the benefits that it brings, and to me it's extraordinary that people have really engaged with this and want to do more, particularly around recycling, but they also want to do more. They're learning more about biodiversity, and we've now got kind of brilliant marginal green spaces that are being rewilded, so that we're not cutting as often. And obviously those spaces have to be done in appropriate places, so that safety, highway safety particularly, is taken into account. But there's some brilliant examples where those biodiversity corridors are now starting to link up, and we're introducing better green spaces for people to enjoy.
Yeah, I do think people are beginning to understand this whole biodiversity argument, because when we had lockdown, that showed what can happen if you shut down parts of the community, like transport, for example, and suddenly things start to emerge.
Yeah.
I'm reading this wonderful book called Wilding now by Isabella Tree. Have you read that? It's just a fantastic book. But I mean, it's almost depressing how much we've killed in the last few years, just insects and flora and fauna and so on, just for our own purposes.
Yeah.
So are you in looking forward, when everybody comes back off party conferences and so on, you'll have about 6 weeks left before Christmas.
Well, of course, and then we've got the King's Speech in between, so
right.
Parliament will be prorogued again for a little bit during.
So there's a bit of respite for you, really. I mean, maybe you'll just come back in January.
I know, but it's frustrating because I'm chomping at the bit and I'm doing everything I can, and what Parliament in recess has allowed me to do is to get into the constituency and get out and do surgeries and meet with lots of people within the constituency, and that's really the important thing to me, because London is a job that I have to go and do, but I love being here and representing people in the community.
So where do you have your surgeries?
We held them. We had one in Frome Town Council. We've had them right across the constituency. I also have a constituency office as well now. But I try and hold as many as I can face to face. And just if people want to get in touch with me and find out where the surgeries are being held, just email me at sarah.dyke.mp@Parliament UK, and we'll be able to tell you more about when those surgeries can happen. But really want to get out and talk to as many people as possible, because people have been left without a voice for far too long now, and I want to be the local champion that changes that.
What are people coming to you with at the moment?
All sorts of issues. The key one is over and over again the lack of dentists. People are really, really suffering, and a lot of dentists are not informing their patients that they're closing to their NHS lists. So people have got booked an appointment with a dentist, and then they're trundling along to their dentist appointment and finding out that they don't have an appointment because the dentist closed their list several months ago.
Gosh,
So
I
it's
mean,
a
that's
huge
scary,
issue.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the key things. But obviously it's a diverse case workload, and my job is to get out there, be responsive, listen, and deal with people's issues right across the board.
I hope you will come back and see us, when you've had a few more months' experience of this, because I think there's an awful lot to do, but you like being in the West Country, so I hope you'll find time to come and talk to us again.
Absolutely. Well, it's my home. I'm born and bred here, so
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd be delighted to come back. But also, just to let you know, recess is over next week, and I'll be doing my maiden speech next Tuesday in Parliament. So
Okay.
Everybody else wants to listen to that.
Can you tell us what's going to be in your maiden speech?
Well, it's likely to be linked in with the Levelling Up regeneration bill that's coming forward, but obviously the purpose of the maiden speech is to allow the newly elected MP to showcase their constituency. So expect a few references and a few name checks around throughout my speech.
Certainly will. We'll be looking forward to that. I don't know if you can record that and play it back, can you? Are you allowed to do that? It's all in Hansard, isn't it? So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, Sarah, thank you very much for coming along and talking to us today.
Real pleasure.
Thanks also to Nikki Brain for telling us what the council is doing, and also for Pat and Kylie for talking about the Frome, the Children's Hospital, Hospice Southwest. I'll probably have to record that whole piece again. But that's almost it. We've got about a minute and a half left. Has anybody got any comments that they'd like to put to Sarah? As she's your local MP, she's here. Can you see any way in which Children's Hospice Southwest might be able to work with Sarah on anything? I mean, fundraising perhaps?
Possibly. Sounds like you're a very busy lady, but I think both Nikki and yourself, there would probably be something if there was capacity, and we are slowly opening up to open days again at the hospice, so it might be that amongst your very, very busy agenda and schedules you might be able to come and have a look round.
I'd certainly love to come and look round. I think what you've achieved and obviously Pat's experience with her family, the work that you're doing is absolutely incredible. I mean, but eye-watering, the amount that you have to fundraise and your reliance on community fundraising to be able to do it, and the lack of the support that comes through from central government is absolutely shocking. But obviously you've got a great team around who are working incredibly hard to ensure that wraparound respite care is there for the whole family, and just hearing the experiences from Pat, it's absolutely incredible the work that you do.
Thank you. Well, we couldn't do it without local communities. It's all about the grassroots communities and people mobilising in the local communities to help. So
to maybe shop in Frome, couldn't we?
We don't have a shop in Frome, but we have some local.
Okay, we're out of time, but thank you so much everybody for coming along.
Thank you.
Okay. Nice to meet you. And you keep doing it.
Oh, it's so different once you have the sound of it. Definitely. It's really nice to meet you there. You too. Thank you for letting us join the second. Really?
I nearly signed up for the Santa run, but I was like...
I know, well, I'm doing Bath Half as well on Sunday.
Oh, are you?
We'll be there. We have a cheer bus, which I should have mentioned actually, but there's so much information to cover, isn't there?
Exactly.
So it might be that if we get an opportunity to come on again in the future, we can tell people that they could take on the Bath Half.
Because that's another thing you didn't mention is that sometimes it's good for, like mothers groups and things like that, to have a talk, to have a speaker.
Oh yeah,
open up.
I was going to cover it.
Yeah.
And so it's, there's so much information always to cover.
Yeah.
So the Rotary, the Lions Club, all the sort of local community groups who are out in the community advocating and fundraising. We go and give talks and things like that to those groups. So it's,
and would you like to see a picture of Melody?
Yes, please.
just so happened to be.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming along. I hope everybody got what they wanted out of it.
There she is.
Oh, fantastic. Is she at mainstream school?
No, not mainstream school. She's at a special school that's near St Martin's Hospital, where St Martin's Hospital used to be.
Oh, okay.
It's called
Three Ways.
Freeway, that's right,
Yeah.
Freeways. And,
Yeah.
and then, I mean, it's made a huge difference to her. I know when she was born, I was talking to another parent of a child, and she said, whatever you do, make sure that she gets into three-way school, because it was the making of this woman's child.
Yeah.
And it had made, you know, she made friends there, and it's really opened up a world to her that might not otherwise have happened.
Oh,
Thank you.
beautiful, isn't she?
Yeah, I think so. Right.
And what are the age range of the children there?
Well, I did. I mean, at that school,
Yeah.
I think they take them up to 16.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what happens then.
Yeah. Yeah, what sorts of
ages?
kind of provision
Well, at
for
the Children's Hospice, obviously, we're there for children up to the very early 20s, and if we've had them for longer, then we're more inclined to be holding on to them as long as we possibly can as well, rather than if they were, say, 18 needing to use our services, we'd then be working with them to be transitioning them into something else. And actually, that transition, I think, is a bit tricky, because a children's hospice is a place for children, but then if they outgrow a children's hospice, because sometimes these children do, it's then how that works with an adult hospice, which is very differently geared up.
We're definitely finding more of that at the moment, aren't we? That people are actually
outgrowing
because-
children's hospices because of medical advances
Yeah.
and technology and things that actually children that they said wouldn't survive longer than a couple of hours or a couple of days are actually outgrowing a children's hospice, and then what's the right setting for them? Because an adult hospice isn't necessarily. There are a couple of children's hospices, you know, throughout the UK who do have that sort of young adult rather than children. But I don't really know a huge amount on why there's not. I guess there isn't more of them because they're not needed in the same way that children's hospices are. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Next steps,
Yeah, of course. Working with them.
Yeah, lead as regular life as they possibly can, giving them the opportunities.
But they were
that
teenagers.
deserve.
They were teenagers at the hospice when I was there. Whether they were siblings, I suppose, that's probably it. But